Hello everyone, and welcome back to part 3 of the Item Toolkit MIL Handbook 217 module tutorial. In part 1 and part 2 we learned how to create MIL 217 systems and generate and customize reports. In part 3 we are going to look at how we would import a bill of material or a BOM directly into a MIL 217 system. The import-export features of Item Toolkit are very powerful and can be used not to just import your BOM, but at any time to make multiple changes to your system automatically rather than manually. I will first show you how simple it is to import just one column of data, and we will go back and expand on this further by adding more data. Let's start with opening Microsoft Excel in a new blank document. I'm going to add just one column to sheet of this document and call it part number. I will then add, let's say, 20 some generic part numbers and save this Excel file. Please note that the Excel file we are going to be saving is going to be in XLS format, as this is the most widely used for all existing old and new platforms. I'm going to save this Excel file as partnumbers.xls into the folder Item Toolkit example. Now I'm going to start a new project in Item Toolkit and import this simple Excel sheet into a MIL 217 system. As the Excel file only contains one sheet and just one column called part numbers, and no other information about the data we are trying to import, we need to introduce a target system for our import. So, we introduce a new MIL 217 system to our project and select this system as our target. Next, we will select the File menu option Import. This will bring up a new window for the Import wizard, which will walk us through the import process. First, we need to select what format our data is in, and by default this is set to Excel, but we have options for databases and text files also. We will leave this as Excel and browse to find our Excel file with the part numbers that we saved earlier. Once selected, we click on Next. We can see that there is only one sheet in our Excel file, and we need to map this to the corresponding MIL 217 table within Item Toolkit. The part number is within the Blocks and Components table, so we would map Sheet 1 to MIL 217 Blocks and Components table and click on Next. Here we can see that on Sheet 1 there is only one column called Part Number, which we will map to the corresponding field within Item Toolkit, which is part number. If the spelling and uppercase lowercase for these were exactly the same, then we would use auto match or match all, but here we would need to map this manually and click on Next. In the final window, we see a preview of the data being imported, and all we need to do is to click on Finish. Now we see that the component part numbers have been imported into this MIL 217 system. But as there was no corresponding data for the type of component we were importing, all components have been set to external. The external component category is one that is not within the MIL 217 standard, and the user would need to assign a known failure rate may be supplied by the component manufacturer or from previous experience or from another prediction standard. Let's now go back and expand on our bill of material and try the import again. First, I will change the uppercase lowercase for part number to match what is expected in Item Toolkit so that I can use auto match or match all. Now I will add more columns with generic data. Let's add description and notes, as well as category keyword. Category keyword is what identifies the component during the import process, and the used in MIL 217 are listed in the help contents, as well as sample bill of material Excel file, which can be found in the Item Toolkit example folder. For MIL 217, the category keyword for capacitors is CR and for resistors RS. So let's set these for our components and try the import. Let's go through the import procedure again. File New Project. Add a MIL 217 system as the target for our import. Now select File Import. Select the Excel file we updated. Click on Next. Map Sheet 1 to the MIL 217 blocks and components. Click on Next. Now I can use match all as all of my fields have the exact same spelling uppercase lowercase as used within Item Toolkit, and click on Next and then Finish. Now we can see all of our 200 components have been imported as capacitors and resistors, and the part numbers, descriptions, and notes have been imported as expected. So, now you can see how we can expand on our bill of material even further and import all of the data that we need. Next, I will show you what the export file for a MIL 217 looks like, how we can update our parameters in batches and re-import them back in. Let's open an existing project. Here, once again, we can either select the top node of the system window or the system itself in the project window. Then we would go to File Export. The Export Wizard window will open, which we will follow step by step. Item Toolkit uses a Microsoft Access database as a bridge to export the tables and parameters to any other format, such as Excel, TXT, or CSV Excel or Access database. We will export to Excel as it is much easier to make multiple changes, and we click on Next. Here we need to choose tables that we need to export. We can select one or more tables, but for the purpose of this exercise, we will export all the tables within the MIL-217 system by clicking this triple arrow and Next. Here we can select any parameter from each of the tables that we selected, but once again for the purpose of this exercise, I will select all the parameters for all the tables by simply clicking the triple arrow and Next. Finally, we will see a preview of all the data that is being exported on separate tabs, which will become separate sheets in our Excel file, and now we can click on Finish. Let's now look at the exported Excel file to see all the tables and parameters that have been exported. As you can see, there's a lot of data behind the scenes for every block and component, and we can make changes to this data and re-import the data back in. Let's, for example, change the analyst name for all blocks and components, just as an example. I will change this to Andrew and make it the same for all of the blocks and components, and then save this Excel file. Let's now go back to Item Toolkit and re-import this Excel file to check for the analyst name. I will go through the process of importing once again by creating a new project. HUT this time, as Excel file contains all of the tables within the MIL-217 system. We do not need to introduce a new system as our target. We simply go to File Import and select our Excel file and click on Next. We can see all the sheets in our Excel file, and as this is an exported file with all the correct tables and parameter names spelling uppercase, lowercase, my import procedure becomes a lot easier whereby I simply select Match All and click on Next all the way to the finish. Let's now check our blocks and components to see if the analyst name has been updated. As you can see, the analyst name is now Andrew for all blocks and components. So, you can do this with any parameter as long as you maintain the ungriddy of the data and the expected text, integer, or number formats that are expected. I hope this tutorial on the MIL-217 import-export has been useful, and look forward to seeing you in Part 4, where I will show you on how to carry out a what-if analysis and how to generate charts.